Good evening, and welcome to the V Principal Podcast. And I'm your host, Ivory Hunter. What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Tonight I'm gonna come on and I am going to talk about the 7 red flags that let you know that you are on your way into the V trap. Um, I'm grateful for everybody who's tuning in. I'm grateful because it's not even about me, like you guys already are starting to understand. It's about the movement. So super happy, super grateful. Welcome to the podcast. At any moment, if you want to join in, let me know and you can join. What's up, Whitney? How you doing? Good to see you. Y'all follow Whitney. She has her podcast. Welcome, everybody. Tonight, like I said, we're going to talk about the 7 red flags that are warning signs that let you know that you're sneaking into the V trap. And just as a little friendly reminder, I wrote a book called The V Principle, and it's all about accountability. I was very open and transparent about my imprints and the way my life has kind of played out as a womanizer and how I created a lot of karma for myself, a lot of emotional debt, and just wanted to take the things that I've learned through messing up and being broken and share it. And so other young men and people can recognize when they're falling into that V trap. And so the V trap represents, metaphorically, chasing sex. But when you think about the V, the left side is when you're chasing, validation. You're chasing an ego, because you're empty. I did a lot of that because I was broken and having women, through culturally it equated to like having, success. And so I got addicted to that. So I needed that validation. So that in doing so, when you chase, you're off your alignment, you're off your path because you spend a lot of time just, on the phone, texting, spending energy, spending money, and you could be using that time to really be working on yourself, working on the things that you are wanting to do with your life. And now I do recognize that, when we're younger, there's a time to kind of like sow your oats, like kind of like get it all out, get it all out your system. But, as men, young men, when we start getting close to 30, we got to really start really narrowing down. That's just my opinion, opinion on some other men too, but really getting serious about your life and getting ready for that next chapter. So get all that stuff out your system because you don't want to be like I have been and just spend years wasting years, being caught up in that V trap. The other side is wasting, you waste years, you waste time, you waste energy, you waste money. And more importantly, you waste other people's time. It's selfish because, people get emotionally involved and we continue to move forward knowing that we don't want the same thing that they want. So that creates emotional debt, which turns into karma. And that's why a lot of times in my life, I get close to things happening, but it doesn't happen. It didn't happen because I had to pay that debt. I ain't gonna just go around breaking people's hearts, being selfish and, not evil, but selfish and broken and hurting people and thinking I'm gonna get away with it. Nah, life don't work like that. Karma comes back and not always the way you put it out. So that's the V principle. And it's all about staying in that V zone, that staying in alignment. We'll talk about alignment at the end of this, but when they're getting right to, how you stay in alignment is actually the V raw code. Like, we are creatures of habit. So if we are used to just texting people and checking in on people, we will do that knowing that we don't have the right intentions. And so that V raw code, that R stands for be real with yourself. Why are you texting that person? Why are you trying to talk to that person? Do you really want to spend time with that person? Do you really want to get to know them? Do you have, are you guys on the same page? And if you know that's not the right thing to do, then you got to use the A, which is be accountable, because you're going to be accountable before, the choices that we make. So, and that W is about once we really start doing that, we can start winning against ourselves and the self-sabotage and really stay locked in that zone. So that's the V principle. And again, later on, if you feel like you want to jump on and add something to this conversation, feel free. I'll bring you in. I'm going to have to put on my reading glasses every once in a while. But how's everybody doing out there tonight? I hope you guys are all doing amazing. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this movement. And again, it's vulnerable, it's vulnerable and it's risky just to share your story. So, that's why, I think I'm kind of at this point maybe struggling to get the amount of men that I want to come on this platform with me and talk about their experiences. But I trust that it's going to build up. I trust that it's going to grow. So I'm gonna continue to put out messages to continue to focus on this movement because I believe in it. It's healing for men and even for women because I hear, I brought on this amazing woman, Adriana, and she was the wife of one of my friends, and she shared her story, and her story has definitely been healing women and giving a different perspective. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about healing. It's about, being vulnerable, not to judge, but being vulnerable to be aware, self-aware, and also aware, if something happened to you, to recognize that it's not personal. People are broken and you just happen to be caught up in their trap. And so how do you get yourself out of that trap? And we'll dive into that at different times. But tonight, again, we're going to talk about the 7 red flags to let you know that you're falling into that V trap. And the first one we are going to roll into is the validation addiction. Validation addiction. We all know what that is. It's like for me, it showed up with a lot of because I have my own insecurities and different things that I didn't feel strongly enough about myself. If I can get that validation by being on a dating app and getting likes and doing all these things, it's making me feel great about myself and vice versa. The other people need that. I found myself in a situation dating this young lady, and I wanted to still feel like in my mind, like maybe subconsciously, like I got it. I can still get this. I can still do it. And so my ego was trying to get her. And, so I was going after her so to get her that every text message, every encounter, it felt like, okay, I still got it, and these bruised egos that we carry around as men sometimes because of our own brokenness, it allows us to stay caught up in this trap. And, what she needed was validation that she was enough. And so we fed each other. And a lot of times people can trauma bond and you can just feed each other that validation that people are needing because we're empty and we're broken. So recognize that if you are, you're in that situation, if, right away you find yourself texting a lot, spending time at work texting, as soon as you get off of work, you got to be texting, and, you just can't stop reaching out to that person because you need that validation, or they're doing it to you. They always got to be on the phone with you, always got to be checking in too early. Then that's a red flag. Pay attention to that red flag. The next one is inconsistent energy. Inconsistent energy. Some days they're fully engaged. Other days they disappear. Hot and cold behavior creates emotional confusion, and confusion keeps people chasing. That's the trap. And confusion is one of the strongest fuels of the V trap. And I've been on both sides of that. Like I've had women question, like, does he want something? Does he want something more serious? Or, because the energy, one day I'll feel like I might be consistent texting and reaching out for, maybe like a week, and then all of a sudden just fall off because of my own fears, my own issues. And that inconsistent behavior has to let you know, it has to be a red flag. If somebody is inconsistent, you cannot accept that. You got to hold your boundaries, women and men, and so I'm just sharing that. And these things I'm not sharing out of being proud. These are things that I'm sharing so you can recognize that it's not personal, that if these things have happened to you, then that's not you, then it's not you. When a man knows that he wants you, you're not going to be confused. I've talked to so many men, and we know when we know. And that's what you have to know. And if you have to think about it, then more than likely, then that person is not sure, and you're not that person. But don't sit around waiting for somebody to change your mind, because, people know when they know. So that inconsistent energy is something that you have to pay attention to, because that is a definite red flag. Gaslighting. I've been on this on both sides. You guys know what gaslighting is, like promising, like, like if you get into an argument with somebody, and I've been in a relationship with a person, or people, I should say, because I'm not going to never identify just one person. And I've been on both sides of this, but just imagine, here's the scenario. You are dating someone, and they go off on you, and they out of the blue, and they suck you into this argument. It's called hoovering. They suck you into this argument, and you're trying to keep it cool. But all of a sudden you react a certain way. And then next thing you know, everything turns into what's about you, about your reaction, and forget what they did, what they said. They focus on your reaction, and people are manipulators and masters of gaslighting. So if somebody's gaslighting you and really changing your words around and doing things like that, you got to be aware. That's a red flag. Pay attention to red flags. When you know, it's up to you to walk away. So you got to have that self love, that boundaries, and be able to walk away. So gaslighting. All right, let's go to the next one. Put on these readers right here. Instant intimacy. And, this is big. A lot of times, and this is really big. Instant intimacy. This is when things move too fast. Deep conversations immediately, sex immediately, over connection immediately. It feels exciting, but excitement is not alignment. Speed creates the illusion of connection. And a lot of times, I've been in that place, and people, you got to watch out for that. That's a red flag. If somebody's opening up too soon, it could be that, and wanting to tell you everything about them and themselves, and they want to know everything about you. Some people don't have the right intentions, and so when we're moving too fast and having all these deep conversations after day one, it's a sign that that person is broken. And when they want to find out some stuff about you, you best believe that they want to use that to kind of get you in, suck you in, and then also maybe use it at some point to weaponize. So you got to be, and definitely be aware of those red flags, and like take time. You don't have to rush to be connected. And sex, the same thing. When somebody's intimate, and they want to have sex and jump into bed right away. No, take your time. Because once that happens, it changes the dynamics of your relationship. So, and when somebody wants to do that really quick, you got to know. Yeah, they can say it's a connection. We feel this, we feel that, but ultimately it might be a pattern that you got to recognize that that person may have, and it may not be just you. It may not be just you guys' connection. It may be just a pattern that that person has. So just take your time. Take your time, and this is coming from somebody that I love sex. I've always loved sex. But take your time. And that's the key. So pay attention to that. Moving too quick. That instant intimacy. Take your time. Number 5, drama and chaos. If someone constantly lives in chaos, arguments, emotional explosions, constant problems, eventually that chaos becomes your environment. Lying. So if somebody becomes like a liar, and they're always drama, they're going to pass that stuff on to you. Not that you're going to become a liar, but you're going to always be questioning that. They're going to create that question mark around them. You know what I mean? Around who they really are. And, you're going to constantly be in an environment that's not good for you. So peaceful people recognize chaos as a warning sign. I remember I was dating this. I tried to date this girl, a young lady, and we years and years ago we were really good friends, but we felt let's try to date. And so I flew to see her, and I kind of knew her personality as a friend, but we knew a lot about each other. So when I got to visit her, we got to drinking and having a conversation, and all of a sudden she just got really, this is we weren't intoxicated. We just started having a drink, but she got really aggressive and really argumentative, and that was a red flag for me. And so luckily that was a part of during the time of my life when I was already working on the healing and trying my best to recognize red flags. Not only recognize, you got to be obedient to them, because a lot of people recognize red flags and then they still keep going. With that, I knew I didn't want to ruin a friendship. I didn't want to waste her time, my time. So we kind of let that thing fade out, because you got to know I'm not, I'm a peaceful person. So if you're dramatic and you always want to argue, and you want to have all these debates and chaos, and this is happening, and I'm that's not going to work. So you got to recognize that somebody's like that. Eventually that stuff is going to affect your energy. So that's a red flag. It may not be for you. If that's something that's familiar, that you're familiar with, and that's natural and that's your norm, but that's broken. So if somebody likes that, you got to recognize that, hey, I don't want that, because you deserve peace in your life. You think better. You have more clarity. You're in alignment when you do that. And lastly, no, not lastly, we got 2 more. We got future faking. This is when someone talks about the future, but the behavior never matches their words. Trips you're gonna take, plans you're gonna build, but no real movement. The V Trap is full of people selling futures that they never intend to build. And a lot of people, I hear a lot of stories, and I've been on the other side of that with the future faking. A lot of people are dating someone who's married or in a relationship, and that person is like, "I'm gonna get out of it." We live together, but it's for the kids, and you've been hearing all those stories, and people know, everybody knows somebody or has been directly affected with that, and more than likely that person's future faking, and you're stuck in that relationship, waiting and hoping, and that comes down to you not accepting that. You can't. If somebody wants to be with you, you're not gonna have to wait on promises. They're going to show you with their actions. I've been on both sides of the coin, not married, but in a relationship, and one foot in and one foot out. And knowing that I didn't, even though I was in that position, I knew that that person I was with, and again, that was my brokenness, that she wasn't going to end up with me either. Because if somebody's like that, if you leave a relationship cheating, then more than likely you're going to start the other relationship cheating. So we got to pay attention to that, and we can't ignore that. A lot of times people get in relationships with the same person that cheated on that other person, and so you gotta be wise. This is hard to say, but it's definitely necessary. We got to pay attention to these signs and to these red flags, people. All right, the last one, misaligned values. This is the biggest one, because different morals, different priorities, different life goals, but you ignore it because you're attracted. And attraction can start relationships, but alignment sustains them. A big thing right here is with I see a lot of I've had a lot of experiences when women compromised, what they wanted, because I met him. This happened so much in my life, and I'm not proud of this, but I want to say it's up to you women to really, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. You can't change a person. There's so many, women who, wanted relationships. They wanted marriage. They wanted this. They wanted that. And I would basically say, that I'm not really ready for that, or this is not what I'm looking for right now. And they would move forward anyway. And, and that's something that I'm not, again, not proud of. But as women, and men, if somebody tells you who they are, believe them. If you want a relationship and you're with somebody who is not sure, or if you want to have children someday and you're with somebody who says they don't want children, listen to them. All right. You have to listen to them. It's so important, because people will tell you and they show you who they are. So listen. All right. So again, I'm going to open this up. I appreciate you guys' time. When you come back, whether you watch this live or whether you come back to it, thank you. Please make sure that you subscribe to the channel, go over to YouTube and share and join the movement. You're always welcome to come on and tell your story. But like I said, you got to pay attention to these red flags, because when we don't, we can't be mad at nobody but ourselves. And of course, it's going to happen, but life is going to continue to give us tests, but we got to pass these tests. And how do we do that? And I'm going to close it with this: alignment. And alignment comes first. Every day, if you stay in line, you don't have to get in line, because life is going to always be testing us. And so this is a whole metaphor of life. You got to put your seatbelt on first, right? So every day I wake up early and I do the work. I wake up, as a single father, I still get up an hour and a half earlier than I wake my girls up, so I can meditate, so I can do my affirmations, so I can study and work out and put myself in a place of gratitude and feeling good. And when I wake them up, my energy is already ready. I've studied. I have the right perspective, the right energy that I walk out into the world, that I wake them up with, because you never know what's going to happen. Now, I like to use this metaphor, because in LA, if you're driving Los Angeles, some of these streets are very narrow. So when you go down these two-way streets in the neighborhood, sometimes people drive with ego. I've been guilty of it, because I'm rushing, or I have an ego, and I speed down that road, and I make somebody pull over. Or if you got two people that come off, I've been to the point where I almost hit somebody's car. They almost hit my car. Now I'm in an argument. Now I'm frustrated. And now I'm slowed up because I was rushing. I'm late. I'm not aligned. And so how do you avoid that? The days that I'm in alignment, I don't drive like that. I already know that these streets are like this. And I know that somebody might come down that street. So when I see that person coming down the street, I get out ahead of even having a confrontation. So I pull over and let them go. Whereas the ego, the young me, want to always go first, or I take another way, So that narrow street metaphor is something that you got to use in life. You see it coming, you're going to be in this narrow street. So Move over ahead of time so you don't have to get yourself frustrated. But you do that by being aligned. If you're rushing, if you're frustrated all the time, then you're going to be impulsive. And how you beat impulsion is be aligned. I love you guys. God bless you. I hope you have a beautiful day. Pay attention to these red flags. Again, the Principle, all right, available on Amazon. I already have the link that's already up in the comments. I hope everybody has a blessed day. With the world being crazy like it is, focus on the growth. Focus on, being the best version of yourself so that can spread. All right, focus, go within, because when we go within, that love can come out and spread. But if we go the opposite way, we're pulling that inside of us. So go within and bring the love out rather than letting that hate in. God bless you.